Well, hello, my dearest friends, my wonderful family. It's time once more for a story. An interesting story, if the title means anything, and the titles are usually pretty damn interesting on this channel. So, this is from Reddit user My Face Be High. It's an interesting name, but I do remember you. This is my brief time in the incel world. Oh boy. Here we go. Hi, Moonhorse. Hello. And the wider moon herd cult gang conglomerate commune, delete as applicable. We are a cult now, and we're quite happy with that. Long-time listener / watcher, first-time poster, so please bear with me as this might be a little incoherent, and there may be some grammatical / spelling mistakes. English is my first language. First of all, I'd like to thank you for everything that you do. I have watched / listened to your videos for a year now, and I love everything that you do. You have a wonderful way with words, and your insight and compassion and emotion is so refreshing. Well, thank you. That's really touching, and I'm glad that, I'm glad you're enjoying it. That really means a lot to me. Anyway, I'm not here to fluff you up, although... oh my. I'm here to talk about a dark part of my life, and offer my personal insight into a world that many people know of and have their own views about. This is something that started around 10 plus years ago, before the idea of quote-unquote incel became more of a mainstream thing, thanks to wonderful individuals. I won't name them because A, they don't need recognition, and B, you already know who they are. Oh, yeah, I do. Throughout my life, I have always had trouble making friends. I have high-functioning autism, so social interactions have never really been my strong point. Although they have improved a lot recently, I still find it very difficult from time to time, though. I do have friends, but most of the friends I have made have been online, either through chat rooms, forums, or even on Discord. Shout out to the Moonhorse Discord server. Yeah, you guys really are awesome, just saying. But one thing I haven't had is a girlfriend. I made friends with girls, but that close relationship I just haven't had. Originally, that didn't really matter to me as I was finding myself. However, since 2010, that has changed. I suppose I've always had a sense of jealousy / envy towards those who I feel have a better life than me, especially with regards to those who have relationships / families, etc. But the older I've gotten, the more I've had a yearning towards that kind of thing. Now, because of my lack of social skills and inability to understand social cues, I find it hard to tell if anyone is flirting with me. No doubt that they could fall down to my area. Let's just say it's incredibly obvious. And yes, the deed is done, but I'm just that kind of a person. I also find it hard to step out of my shell and speak to someone, which is actually something that I still find hard to this day. I mean, I know a lot of people who do have issues with that kind of thing, and, it can be tough, but I totally believe that you can find the right person. It takes a little time, and maybe it takes a little more than you think, but, it's not impossible. So with all this in mind, and me being someone who spends most of their time indoors in the safe embrace of the internet, safe I should add as in quotation marks, they didn't put that, but I emphasized them, it can be easy for me to fall into a trap, especially if I'm not careful. I was lonely and a little desperate, and because of that I wanted to find a reason why. So I did what many other incels do. I looked for blame. I looked for a reason why things were wrong, and it was easier for me to blame women, and even men, rather than look into myself and try to find solutions. Now, fortunately, I didn't go full-on incel, and just out-and-out hate every single woman I saw and hurl abuse at them for the crime of simply existing. For me, it was a more subtle internal judgment. I found myself looking at attractive women immediately jumping to the conclusion of, they must be with Chad, and that it must be something physical about me. It was only made worse by the fact that I had a few girls that I was crushing on. To use their term, I had one-itis. One-eye-tie? And rather than go up to them and try to talk to them, I just stood resentfully from afar and decided it wasn't worth it because of something I made up. So what brought me out of it? Well, several things. As I said earlier, this was a bad period of my life with a lot of bad stuff going on. So this was the cherry on top of the shit cake and a place for me to vent my frustrations. So the first thing that happened was the bad period changed, which was hard and involved some interesting stuff happening, but things did get better with that regard. The second thing was I changed the way I saw myself. As you can imagine, that was a very difficult thing for me to do, and took probably the longest time, as there were some things deeply ingrained in me. But there were several things that brought about the change. One was the growing number of videos on YouTube discussing the whole incel culture and some of the subjects. It made me realize that those people are not the people I want to be. For all my faults, I do not wish harm on people, unless they do something particularly bad, like, assaulting people, or like mass murder or emotional manipulation. Bad things to kids that you can't say on YouTube. Thanks, YouTube. Hey, I didn't even have to say it that time. You wrote it for me. Thanks. Also, thanks, YouTube. So, realizing that incels are just angry virgins who really, really hate women, and how I'd fallen into that way of thinking, I had to remind myself that the females, it's actually written like that, are human beings too, with their own hopes and fears and emotions and all that other stuff, and that they should be treated as such. The other was realizing that yes, I do have faults, but those faults do not make me a bad person. Yes, some people are vain and will only care about looks or material things. Unless I want to be that kind of guy, I shouldn't go after those kind of people. Yes, I'm allowed to have my own preferences, but so are they, and nothing I can do will ever change that. But the things I can change to make myself more presentable, more likable, I should do. Now, don't get me wrong, I've never gone full neckbeard, but I did have some tendencies. Get it? Like tendencies, but you could use that phrase if you want. And I did. I let my physical appearance slide a little, and I had a habit of eating junk food a lot, but I did shower regularly, and still do. Finally, I did have therapy. Now granted that this was because I had some anger issues which needed to be resolved. Don't worry, never involved hurting anybody, just pride. But to this day, it is something that has helped me. The third way was to change the way I saw everyone else. Instead of seeing others as successful because they had something I didn't, I just saw them as people. They were no better or worse than me because of who they chose to spend their life with. I also started making more of an effort in talking to women, even using online dating. Granted, online dating isn't great, but I did talk to some interesting people on there, and I've had even 2 dates from it. Granted, that's 2 dates in 10 years, but it's better than 0 dates in 10 years. That's a fair point. Now sure, those dates didn't end up leading anywhere after the fact, but it's a start, and I'm more hopeful that something can happen in the future. As for now, I'm still single, and while I'm a little sad about it, I know it's not the end of the world. The ironic thing about everything is I have been looking back on previous points in my life and realized that there have been girls flirting with me in the past and I was just too dense to notice. But the important thing is that there's nothing I can do about it now. What's done is done, and I'd like to think that I've improved. I made some really good friends, one of whom has become a close friend to me, to the point where a few years back he asked me to join his band, and we're in the process of recording an album, which might come out this year. Our producer takes forever to do anything, but that's because record producing is a hobby outside of his day job, so understandable. I also started a new job in February before the big global event happened, which has me earning more money than I did before. Not quite enough for me to live on my own, but it's enough to get by. So that's a nice thing too. If there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that the whole incel ideology is not too dissimilar to that of terrorist or far-right policies. They prey on the down and the out, who feel hard done by society and offer a solution to their problems, which is to point at someone else and say it's their fault, and that in order for your problem to be solved, they need to be controlled/eliminated. For anyone who is desperate for an answer, this is very enticing, and for that reason I can understand why people would fall into these traps. However, they are built on lies and prejudice, and are a tale as old as time. For anyone who's going through that, please know that as hard as it may sound, the problem isn't the females, foids, whatever derogatory term you've come up for them this week, but your worldview. The world is only out to get you if you let it. You have the ability to change your life within you. You just need to fight all those negative thoughts and live for the positivity, and who knows? Someone may come along, and you don't need to be alone anymore. Anyway, I think this post is long enough. I mostly wanted to get this out there, so anyone who's going through a similar thing knows that you can get out of it. My face be high is my face be out. So, it's a great sign-off. But yes, I appreciate your post, and think you're absolutely right. You describe basically everything I've ever said about the whole incel thing. There are those who are absolutely toxic, horrible, fill the whole litany of terrible words that you can think of, but there are also just really sad, hurt, and lonely people. There are people who are constantly looking for an answer, something to blame, because it's easier than the honest answer, which is it's your fault, and you need to handle it. And I don't mean it's your fault in some sort of like accusatory, and that's why you're evil kind of thing. It's like, no. I'll give you my own example. Even though our wonderful OP did a fantastic job of that, I'll give you my own example. I had a bit of a problem when it came to heavy drinking because of my depression. But I realized that is a problem, and I realized that I don't want to be that person. And I realized that it was doing horrible damage to me, and it wasn't making things better. So I started cutting back. I mean, I'm not, completely going to stop. I don't really think I need to go that far. I don't think I was ever that bad. But I have cut back, and I've started doing things specifically for myself to help me better myself. Not just this, amazing channel with all you amazing people. The other things for self-help, working out, a better mentality, a better understanding of the world around you. Therapy can help with a lot of that stuff too. Mental health is just as important as physical health. And, sometimes you really need to work on this kind of stuff. It's easy to have someone say that it's, X or Y person's fault and then be done with it. But that's not going to make anything change. Because it's not their fault. The issue lies within your own mentality, and it's a mentality that needs to be corrected. Right now, we're seeing a huge rise in, incredibly far-right things saying that the biggest problem that the world has to face is just every trans person. But is it, though? Is that really the problem? Because that just sounds like a scapegoat. It sounds like you're looking for someone to blame who has literally no connection to the problems that are going on around you. And that's exactly how that kind of toxic mentality works. It has to be someone else's fault, so we must find an other and then say it's them. But it's not. It's not them. They didn't do anything. They're just living their lives. Everybody's a person, and everybody basically lives the same kind of, normal person life. You just do what you have to do every day to get by and keep on going. There is no grand conspiracy. There is no secret evil leader. And, no one's out to get you or anything like that. It's just not how that works. Reality is a far more boring place. I know. But that's the way it is, kid. So, I really, really appreciate you giving us this insight into your own mentality and your own brush with the incel mentality. This does remind me of conversations I've had with people like that who go on about how, everything is the women's fault, but they will never say, which women, where, how are they accomplishing this? Do they have a group? Is there a network? How do they talk? What is the whole communication relay? Do they have a secret language? They never have a way of proving this. They just say that it's women. Okay, and? Do you have any proof of that? The only thing you're saying is that there's all these women out to get you, but that doesn't sound any different than the QAnon people talking about how, everything is out to get us, and it's but that's insane. And that all sounds crazy, so, just saying. Though it is enlightening to see what it's like from the other side. We definitely have learned something here today, kids, and it's that anybody can change for the better. So, with that being said, if you know somebody who needs positivity, give them some positivity. Be that light that everybody needs from time to time. I love you all so very, very much, and if you would like to send me your own stories, send it to my subreddit, r/Moonhorse stories. It can be about pretty much anything. I make stories out of all kinds of weird stuff, so, feel free to drop one by. If you would like to contribute to this channel in another way, to keep the lights on in here, I sell shirts and all kinds of weird stuff on my merch store, and I have a Ko-Fi, which is like Patreon, except, cooler. And it's called Ko-Fi, so it's not like Patreon. Things. I also have all kinds of links of strange things you should look at in my Discord, including a link to our newest podcast, which, if you're subscribed to the podcast thing, you get early access to it. If not, you're going to have to wait another week before it comes out. Sorry, that's the way things are. I love you all so very much, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye, my friends, and take care of each other. Love you much. Bye.